Hello, I'm Rebecca Charlton and welcome to round one of the Women's KISS Super League, live here in Germany from the Canyon Bikes HQ. Now, this is the first dedicated esports league to feature professional cyclists, and it all takes place exclusively on Zwift. Now, joining me alongside for all of tonight's race action is Matt Stevens.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Now, this, as Rebecca said, is week one of 8 weeks of racing with some of the finest female professional riders. We'll go head-to-head on Zwift against some of the best riders taken from the Zwift community as well.
Yes, well, that comprises 7 of the best teams from the women's pro peloton, as we say. But in addition to that, likewise with the men's league, are those 2 Zwift community teams, the All-Stars and the Dream Team. But while we'll see an individual winner crowned tonight, of course, it's all about that team competition. So the more points they get accumulatively as a team, that's better in the rankings.
Indeed, and of course we've got the Canyon SRAM team racing on home soil live with us tonight. While we're talking about teams, let's have a look at those rosters. Who have got racing in the Zwift KISS Super League?
Yes, well, of course, joining Canyon SRAM is Dolcini Van Eyck, Bigler, Valcar Cyclants, 2020 powered by Show Air, Hagen's Berman Supermint, WNT Rotor, and the community teams, which is the Zwift All-Stars and the Zwift Academy Dream Team.
It is an absolutely fantastic lineup. I cannot wait to see these teams go head-to-head, but I'm going to pick a couple of cheeky little tips tonight. We cannot not mention Ella Harris, the current Zwift Academy champion, of course, riding in her first professional year with Canyon SRAM, and also the 2017 Zwift Academy champion, Tanja Erath, who's now riding for the German national track team as well. But a cheeky outside bet, Iona Johnson from the Zwift Academy All-Stars. Watch out for her.
Certainly, and of course a very strong lineup there, and whilst strength on these bikes is all important, so is that strategy with the all important elements like power-ups and drafting, but not least knowledge of that course as well.
Yeah, course knowledge is going to be absolutely crucial. So while we're on the topics of courses, let's look at what the riders are going to face tonight. It's a relatively flat course. Well, it's a very flat course. It's called the Watopia Flat Course. It is 30.6 kilometers in length, 3 laps of 10.2 Ks, and you can tell it's not particularly hilly because the elevation gain is pretty low. It's only 60.1 meters. But that said, expect it to be a really fast and furious race because the flatter the course, the more open the racing.
Well, it certainly is a flat course, and will anyone be able to see that elastic break, or will it come down to a perhaps more predictable bunch gallop? Before we go any further here, let's have a word now from tonight's commentator. Here's Nathan Guerra.
Thanks a lot, Matt and Rebecca. Welcome, everybody. KISS Super League. Round number 1 with the women. I'm Nathan Guerra. I'll be commentating the race for you tonight. A little bit of information about the race and what is going on with this series of races. It's going to be 10 races, 1 race commencing every single week. The teams that are competing, they'll be able to take the best 8 results toward the overall for the league points. In each race, there must be 4 racers from each team in order for them to qualify for their points. All riders must finish the race, and the teams consist of 8 rider squads. Heart rate monitors are going to be used at all times, are going to be required. The points are going to be awarded from 25 all the way down to 1 point for 31st place. So from first place all the way down to 31st place, points will be awarded. Riders' points will be accumulated into a team total, and this will be the winning team at the end of the 10-race series. It's going to be a really fast and exciting racing scene out there today on the Watopia Flat Course. We've got pro teams, we've got community teams. I think one of the talking points that we've been looking at over and over again, looking at the men's league and now going into the women's league starting up here, is the community teams versus the pro teams. We've seen a lot of times with the Zwift Academy Dream teams as well as the All-Star teams, they have a lot more experience out there racing on Zwift. There's actually some tactics, when to use power-ups, familiarity with these courses. They know when to go. They know when to attack. We have seen the pro teams, though, that have been showing up and knowing how to get experience in races within the community races that are going on throughout the weeks. They've been showing up a lot of times and getting some homework done and been able to compete. We're going to see if any of the pro teams with the women's side of things have been showing up and doing their homework, or whether or not there's going to be some learning curves for them. Obviously, though, the pros are going to have massive amounts of power. They've got a ton of experience, obviously, racing in real life, as well as just the reality of them being the top tier in the world as far as racing goes. Some riders that I would definitely be watching out for, though, amongst the community teams out there to maybe challenge the pros. Britt Mason on a flatter course like this. Britt Mason, we've seen her take down sprint after sprint after sprint. As far as the community all-star teams, I'd be calling out definitely a favorite out there for sure. The Zwift Academy Dream Team as well. We did hear Ione Johnson being another one who's a super fast sprinter, so I'd be watching out for them on this specific course. We're going to head back over to Matt Stevens for some on-the-ground looks at the riders.
Thanks very much indeed, Nathan. Well, I'm here with Beth Duria. We've had lots of chats over the last couple of years, Beth, but we're finally here at the first ever esports league for women professional cyclists in the home of cycling for Canyon SRAM, Canyon in Koblenz. 4 girls warming up. What team tactic do you have today? Because this is new to you, isn't it? Very, very new.
It is very new. It's very exciting to be here, and there's a great crowd for it. The 4 girls, 2 have raced on Zwift before, 2 haven't, so it's completely new for them, but we treated it exactly like we would for a race. We studied the course, we've looked at tactics, we've discussed it, and the girls are ready. It's going to be very exciting, I think.
I mean, esports is quite new to a lot of people. The whole concept, a lot of people are still grappling with. But I personally think it complements the existing pro cycling model. It doesn't deter from it. What are your thoughts on it generally?
No, I would definitely have to agree. I think we've seen how valuable the Zwift Academy was for our team, bringing in 3 riders in a different way. And I think now, if you look at the esports, it's a natural progression. There's many people that are using Zwift, and there's people that want to race on Zwift. So having an esports league, it just seems it's very natural, and we're definitely excited to be part of it.
You going to give us any little nuggets of what went on the team meeting, or are you playing your cards close to your chest?
No, we can be definitely open. We're going for the win. I said to the girls, they're doing all out tonight. I think it's going to be hard right from the gun, but it's a flat course. There'll be some riders that have never raced Zwift as well, so I think we're going to try to use the advantage that we have with Ella and Tanya, and we're going to try and take that to the other teams.
Beth says in for the win. Now I'm going to throw over to Becca Charlton. Becca, you're going to have a word with Ella, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Well, you heard it here first. They are going all in for the win, and we know it's going to be straight off for the gun tonight. Now, I'm going to jump in. I know the girls are warming up, so we won't bother them for too long. But Ella, I have to ask you, of course, reigning champion of the Zwift Academy, 5,000 riders went for that place. How did it feel when you secured it?
It's still pretty unbelievable to be honest. It hasn't really sunk in, and I don't think it will sink in for a while, but yeah, when I think about it, it's still a little bit surreal, but yeah, it's an awesome opportunity, so I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, once again, congratulations from all of us for that place. It's absolutely phenomenal. But I have to ask about tonight's racing. How much talk of team tactics has really gone in?
To be honest, we're all relatively inexperienced when it comes to Zwift racing, but we've had a good chat. We've sort of looked at the men's racing, seeing how that's going, and that looks really exciting. So we're hoping to sort of see what they're doing and learn from that and see if we can use some of their tactics today, but we'll see.
Well, we're confident. Ella, thank you so much. We'll let you focus on that warm-up, and the racing is going to get underway very shortly. So here's our commentator, Nathan Guerra.
Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Now, we are out on, obviously, the Watopia Flat Course. We've been chatting about that tonight. Round number 1 for the Women's KISS Super League. Going to be absolutely awesome starting. The starts are going to be fast and fierce as they usually are out on course. 3 laps, total distance 31 kilometers, as you can see. Now, there's going to be some key places out on course and a very specific way to race this course. Being a flatter route, it's definitely going to be about the peloton holding on to the draft that is out there. Out on Zwift, there is definitely drafting in the game. You need to hold onto those wheels in front of you, but there are going to be key sections. The start, obviously, fast and furious. Ocean Boulevard, but the climb out of the tunnel, a little bit of 3% gradient there. There's going to be a sprint every lap immediately going into the Essies, which has a lot of undulating climbs through it. So that sprint competition that we have on every single lap, followed up by the Essies, that's going to be a key moment that I think each of the riders is going to have to watch out for. The experience in racing out on Zwift, knowing the Watopia Flat Course with the teams and the riders that are out there, they're going to need to know how to challenge that section. What are they going to do? Are they going to go for the sprint competition, or are they going to wait up and have a counterattack through the Essies? Are they going to be attacking out of Ocean Boulevard. The questions are, the questions in our head at this point are, who's going to hang on from the get-go? In the men's league, we did see in the first couple of races a huge learning curve when it came to the starts for these races. It sounds like the women might have been watching a little bit over the past couple of weeks here and seeing that a lot of the men were just getting dropped off right from the get-go. But here we go. The legs are definitely locking here. The watts are going, and here we go. The orange numbers right from the get-go here. Show air here, it looks like we're looking at here. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see on screen the current wattage for the rider that is highlighted on the right-hand side of the course. We do see Tanya Erath here coming out of Germany, up out of the saddle there, riding for Canyon SRAM. Now we do see one of the Zwift national champions actually out. We got Hubach here now riding for the All-Stars. She's sitting at 168 beats per minute, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. So just so all the viewers do know out there, whenever we do change riders and we do see the rider highlighted on the right-hand side. So currently we're looking at leg here from Show Air 2020, holding down a solid 394 watts, 166 beats per minute as they take the right-hand turn, and then it'll be a left-hand turn onto Ocean Boulevard. In the upper right-hand corner, for those who are wondering what are the percentages that you're seeing on the map up there, that is the current gradient that the rider that we are looking at that is highlighted on the right-hand side. That is the gradient they are currently experiencing on the Smart Trainer that they are riding on. We are seeing Vicky Whitelaw here now hammering away, coming out of Australia. Now this is also a Zwift national champion, hold down a solid 3.6 watts per kilogram. That's another nice thing about Zwift as far as the metrics that we get out on the screen for you. You can actually see the watts per kilogram for the weight that they have in game listed for you on the right hand side of the course there. A lot of people who do know anything about cycling will know it's all about the watts per kilogram when it comes to the fitness and winning races, especially when things head on uphill. And we're looking at Goldman here coming from HB Superman now with a distance remaining 29.6 kilometers in the main peloton right now. Canyon SRAM now here on screen. We've got 175 beats per minute currently coming from the rider here out of Israel. It looks like it's going to be Rotem here with a solid 222 watts. Sitting at the back end of the pack now, making their way forward. HB Superman now, it looks like trying to maybe not fall off the back through this section. Now this section, of course, is most definitely going to be a little bit calmer in the main pack here. It's definitely not going to be a section where anybody wants to try and get away. You carry a lot of speed downhill in Ocean Boulevard here with not a whole lot of chance to break away from the pack. It needs to calm down a little bit before any kind of breakaways could try and happen. And it looks like with quite a bit of experience for some of these riders here, they don't seem to be wanting to try and get away at this point. It seems like they know exactly how to race this course right now. We do have a couple, though, off the back already. We do see WNT Rotor with Reeks here, as well as it looks like Van der Bloek here, coming out of Belgium. It looks like riding for Dolcini Van Eyck here, as well as looks like Valkar Islands here off the back here with Sanguinetti. So it looks like three riders here suffering right off the bat with a drop off the back there. We still do have a solid pack at this point of about 21, 22 riders, though, in the main pack that we are looking at right now. Taking up the front end of the race, I do believe it is going to be Valkar Silence still, though. Policini there at the front end. It is an Eklund here, though, riding for the Dream Team. Natalie Eklund actually riding for that Zwift Academy Dream Team, a part of the Zwift Academy finalists there, hammering away at the back end of the pack there. Now we are seeing the Canyon SRAM team with Harris now making her way toward the front of the pack there, but just fading back slowly. Now, you do see the riders continually making their way to the front end of the group. The reason a lot of times that you do see that and then that fading backwards is to just make sure that you are positioned very well. It's kind of continually like crit racing out on Zwift as far as your positioning goes. If you're not moving forward, if you're not moving forward in the pack and taking up a continual position in that top 10 positions, you can quickly find yourself stuck at the back of the pack and not easily able to make your way forward. And next thing you know, there may be an attack on the front, and if you let any kind of a gap go, bam, it's said and done, and you are off the back chasing. And if anybody knows anything about Zwift racing, chasing down a pack flying along at 40 kilometers per hour or something like that is almost impossible to bring on back. This is the first time up and over the top of the climb, though, out on Ocean Boulevard. A little bit of a 3% gradient to get ahead into the windmill section of Ocean Boulevard. We did see a little bit of a power-up being popped there by one of the riders there. It does look like it's one of the Zwift Dream Team riders. Excuse me, not Zwift Dream Team riders, but the All-Stars popping a feather power-up there. Interesting to see that they collected a feather power-up prior to the race, seeing as the aero power-up is the strongest that is out on Zwift there. A lot of times the riders that do jump into the race do go out and do their warm-up and go out and try and collect a power-up. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what power-ups are, there are little advantages that you can gain over your competitors by collecting them going underneath a lap banner, a sprint banner, or the KOM banner. Any banner that you do go underneath out on Zwift, it does give you the ability, if you do not have a power-up, to collect a power-up, and the power-up specifically, aero power-ups, feather power-up, or a drafting power-up as far as those that you can use to gain an advantage over the other riders. So the aero power-up does reduce the draft on the riders by 30 seconds, and reduces the drag on the riders for 30 seconds straight. The feather power-up reduces the weight of the rider by about 1 watt per kilogram, as you do want to use that obviously over little climbs or any kind of section where it does start heading uphill, as you did see the feather power-up being used there by the All-Stars. We do have these shots here live on site, and little thing I wanted to mention there about the Canyon SRAM, we do have 2 racers there, obviously, that qualified for that team through the Zwift Academy. I mean, Tanya there on site, as well as Ella, both of them are going to be extremely experienced in racing out on Zwift, which is a little bit of a change-up between the men's league that we see and the women's league we see here with the pros. These pros that we're looking at here actually qualified to become professional cyclists through racing out on Zwift. So I think Tanya and Ella may have a little bit more experience and be able to probably be a huge threat out here for the race W here. Eklund here from the Dream Team that we're looking at now. Zwift Academy Dream Team, 175 beats per minute, currently 4.5 watts per kilogram. These wattages that we're seeing from these riders are absolutely through the roof already, and the heart rates really up high at this point already. It doesn't look like it's a very slow race at all from the get-go here. Eklund here, steady 4.5 watts per kilogram. It looks like Placini now from Valcar Cyclance now coming out of Italy, hanging on to the wheel there as well. It looks like Cini there coming out of the Netherlands about 2 seconds back. So it looks like Eklund may be trying to get a little bit of a break off the front here, as we do have a couple. It looks like Whitelaw as well up toward the front there. Dolcetini there, Dolcetini Van Eyck here. Team here trying to follow up against the Valcar Silence now team, who is getting a little bit of a break off the front, it looks like. We will be having a sprint every single lap at the sprint banner. That will take place after what we call the S-turns here, leaving Ocean Boulevard. So this little section is a false flat, is a 1% uphill grade. You can see in the upper, in just a moment, we'll be able to see in the upper right-hand corner the mini map. And on that mini map, there is the current gradient that the women are going to be experiencing here. S. Bird from the All-Stars team up toward the front end, 7.1 watts per kilogram, does seem to know that this is a false flat, so it is going to be Hubach followed up by Bird. Now it's Whitelaw. The All-Stars getting very organized at the front end of the pack right now. We're looking at the main pack. An attack off the front, though, here, coming from Hubach, that this is the Danish national champion, Zwift national champion, on an attack. This left-hand turn, these women know this course, obviously. This is where the experience comes into play, because this left-hand turn into the little gradient into the Italian village is one of the key places that you can make an attack on this flatter course. Bird here off the front here for the All-Stars team, 159 beats per minute, up and into those orange numbers. And whenever you see those orange numbers on the right-hand side of the course there, you know the attacks are on. It's almost a sprint into a sprint effort anytime that you do see those orange numbers there on the right-hand side. We're under the breakaway here, 3 seconds up. Hubach followed up by Bird. We saw Hubach as well as Whitelaw in a community race last week break away just like this and stay away from the pack for the duration of the race and win the race 1-2. Let's see if they can make something similar like that happen today here in the first round of the KISS Super League with a break. Doesn't look like it's happening here. It's going to be McKay here coming from the Dream Team, closing things right on down. Whitelaw there from the All-Stars, grabbing onto her teammate's wheel, but the pack comes flying in. We're coming on into the first sprint of the day. In just about a K and a half here, it's going to be an all-out fight for that green sprint banner and to try and take down the sprint competition. Every lap we will be having a sprint, and 3 of them for the points on the day for the 1, 2, 3, and 4 spots in the sprint competition. There is the green line on the road there that represents the start of the sprint, and we've got a little bit of kick here coming from the Dream Team going into those orange numbers there. It is going to be McKay, 515 watts, 200 meters to go. It looks like Tanya Erath now, it looks like coming on with 10.4 watts, becoming 11 watts coming from Tanya Erath here. The German rider for Canyon SRAM looking to take it down here. It looks like it's going to be Erath just nipping at the line there. Britt Mason looked to try and get involved there. Super strong sprinter out of the US of A, as well as the winner of the North American KISS Crit Finals, actually. So Britt Mason here into this break. It looks like for the All-Stars. Bird following up for the All-Stars as well. Erath here instigating a little bit of a break amongst the women here. A leg here coming from Show Air 2020 now at 5.9 watts per kilogram, trying to close things down. Let's take a quick look at the replay here of that finish. See how, not that finish, but of that sprint there in just a moment, and see how it ended up playing out amongst the women for that sprint. There's Erath, it looks like, just nipping the line there with McKay. It looked like Britt Mason was able to grab the 3rd position there. Perhaps that time around on the course, Britt just not quite timing the attack that she needed to, or perhaps trying to get away with this break that is forming, knowing that this would be a section through the Essies now that we're looking at here that is definitely going to be a section that the riders are going to be watching out for every single lap for a breakaway, because this is the only section out on the flat course where you really get any kind of uphill gradients over and over and over again. And anybody who's familiar with cycling, it's all about when things go uphill. That's when the cream of the crop definitely comes to the top of the racing here. And this is going to be a little bit of a breakaway now. The main pack trying to make the chase there. Britt Mason here, 4.2 watts per kilogram, chasing this down. There's a 1 second gap between the riders at this point. You see at the bottom of the screen, 13 meters or so between the break and the main pack. It looks like we're going to head on over to Matt Stevens back on the ground with the live riders. Over to Matt.
Thanks very much indeed, Nathan. Well, what a cracking start. Big watts being dropped there at the opening hotspot sprint. But I'm here with Roman, the CEO of Canyon. It's a party atmosphere. This is what Zwift is all about. It's a real celebration, not just cycling, of course, but of women's cycling. How does it make you feel as a boss?
I'm very happy. I'm very happy that we can host the Zwift guys here and that you start this KISS series here in Koblenz with our team. Yeah, and I'm super excited to see how the race will went today. I also raced together with my son on Zwift, and I could really say this is one of the best experiences I had in the last few years, and I really love it in winter.
That was going to be my next question. Do you race on Zwift? You've already answered that for me. That is very, very cool. Will we see you racing on Zwift maybe in the future some more?
I think you will not see me racing because but I just do it for fun, and it's really fun, I can tell you. I do it with my small son. He is 8 years old, and it's a great way also to bring young people to the sport in a safe environment, to train with them, and it's very funny, and it's a lot of fun.
I was just saying earlier on to Beth that, of course, the director sportif of Canyon SRAM, that this, I think, esports, Zwift, racing on Zwift, only enhances and adds to the value of professional cycling.
Yes, I see it in the same way. I see it in the same way because we also attract new customers to the sports. Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed. Back to the racing, Nathan. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Great little interview there, and obviously super excited, Canyon SRAM here, about the racing out on Zwift and the reality of esports growing with Zwift and cycling here. And it looks like we've got a solid group with a little bit, I would, if we call this the main pack of the breakaway at this point, because, I mean, there is a solid number of about 16, it looks like 16, 17 riders here. So they drop about 4 or 5 riders off the back of the main pack as they went through that sprint section. It looks like at the back end here is going to be the All-Stars with Britt Mason. Then toward the front there is going to be, I've seen 2020 pro cycling here, you know, at the front there, really taking control. And it looks like they've shown up to race here, which is interesting to see. You know, Show Air 2020 at the front. We've got all 4 of the riders, it looks like, have made this front group, which is interesting to see. Definitely looks like they've been watching a lot of the broadcasts, or perhaps just racing and riding out on Zwift with a lot of experience here. We're looking at HB Supermint here, though, as well. It looks like here's the sprint lap results there. Tanya Ayer taking it down with 5 points there. Helen McKay there with 3 from the Dream Team. Britt Mason as well as Vicky Whitelaw, both coming from the Zwift All-Stars team. So that is your sprint points for lap number 1. We've got 2 more to go, though, and it looks like that's going to be the challengers on the day for the sprint competition here. Now, making the way to the front there is going to be the All-Stars looking to take over the front end of the pack now as they head into Ocean Boulevard in the downhill. This is the main pack we're looking at here. HB Supermint now, it looks like, also very involved still, not getting dropped off either, as it's going to be Britt Mason's name popping up there, though, sitting in pretty with a solid 3.3 watts per kilogram right now. There's the live shots there coming from the Canyon SRAM team on site now with their Zwifts behind them. They're hammering away. It looks like a little bit of suffering there. A lot of focus on the faces there of both Ella as well as Tanya Aerith. We did see posted up on Instagram, actually, Tanya posted right before the start of the race a weigh-in. All the riders there on site weighing in, making sure that the numbers in game are exactly as they should be for the live event there on site, actually. So if you want to check out a lot of follow them on over on Instagram, actually, as there's plenty of action going on over there with I think Tanya's been posting, I believe Ella's been posting, as well as Zwift's been posting from the live stuff on site over there. So we are looking at Jolland here now, coming out of France up toward the front end of the pack now. 184 beats per minute, 197 watts, 200 watts or so, 3.1 watts per kilogram coming from this rider right here, with 18.2 kilometers to go with the main pack as they head underneath the ocean on Ocean Boulevard. It's going to be a calmer section. Things aren't most likely going to be popping off too much at this point, unless somebody wants to try and take a flyer off the front. You know, on after the downhill section into Ocean Boulevard, there is a little bit of an opportunity to try and get away if you want to try and TT off the front. It would have to be a huge, massive sprint, though, in order to get the kind of break that you need. Now, we are seeing an arrow power up here being popped by one of the riders, which is very interesting. That looks to be a strictly suffering arrow power up, though. I do not believe that anybody is really trying to break away at this point, unless they're just trying to make it fast enough that nobody else can really try and get away at this point. I have a feeling, though, that it has mainly to do with the fact that some of the riders may just be absolutely trying to hang on at 181 beats per minute with Goldman here coming from HB Supermint. That may have been why that arrow power-up was popped. Again, the arrow power-up, a power-up that reduces the drag on the avatar, speeds your avatar up, regardless of the amount of wattage that you're currently putting out at the moment. It definitely reduces that drag and speeds the avatar up, the strongest power-up that there is out on course. Now, a lot of times, as far as the tactics goes for a Zwift race, most of the riders will, especially on a flat course like this, they know that it's most likely going to come down to a pack finish. So because of that, they will save their arrow power-up till the final sprint across the line. It looks like the Canyon SRAM women on site, they're using those tax trainers now as they do head uphill on this 3% gradient. They will be feeling that real life feel of the tax Neo, pushing back against the pedals, pushing back against the force of their legs there on site there with those tax Neos. The real world feel definitely coming back into the legs there with those smart trainers. If you've never used Zwift before, not sure what a smart trainer is, a smart trainer like the tax Neo there on site is going to produce the gradient that you currently see in the upper right hand corner. 3%, 4%, 8% gradients, all the way up, and I think our highest percentage gradient is like a 17% out on Zwift. It looks like we're going to head back on over to Rebecca with Beth on site from Canyon SRAM there over at the live event. Back on over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Nathan. Well, yes, Beth joins me once again now. We're about that halfway point now. What have you made of the racing so far?
I think they definitely went out really hard at the gun, but we were expecting that, so that wasn't a surprise to anyone. Tanya did great in the first intermediate sprint. The second one's coming up soon, so I think she has her eyes on the intermediate sprint prize. And the other girls they're looking good. Rotum's just off the back with a little group, and Alice and Ella, they're sitting actually very comfortable.
They do look like they're sitting very comfortably there. And of course, we've got a good view of everybody under this roof. What do you make of the atmosphere? Because when Tanya went for that first intermediate, everybody was roaring.
Yeah, I think the crowd really loved that, and I expect they'll be very happy when she goes for the second intermediate sprint very soon as well.
Any more predictions?
I'm predicting it's going to be a bunch sprint and a win to perhaps the girl closest to your right here, Alice Barnes.
Well, we'll let you focus and get back to those Team GCs. Beth, thank you.
All right, well, good to hear the predictions there coming from the team. Interesting to see and to hear that it sounds like they showed up with a plan today about who's going to be taking the sprint competition as well as who might be taking the overall. It sounded like Tanya was going to be set up for the main sprinter on the sprint competition there. But it also looked like there might have been talking about Alice Barnes perhaps there for the overall win, it looked like. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out, though, for the Canyon SRAM team. We did see one rider just drop off the back of the main pack there. It looks like it's going to be Ali Legg there, coming from Show Air 2020 out of the US of A. Was hammering along, and just as they came up and over the top of the climb on Ocean Boulevard, it looked like she actually maybe put in a little bit of a dig, and then the rest of the pack came around, though, and maybe suffered a little bit for that attack off the front, or at least the extra watts per kilometer that were given up and over the top of the climb out of Ocean Boulevard. Heading back into the S-turns there, as we can see, we are looking here at 190 beats per minute currently coming from the rider from HB Super Mint. This is a really high heart rate right now here coming from, it looks like we're looking at Gonzar here right now. Lei and Gonzar from HB Supermint absolutely demolishing herself at 190 beats per minute. I am looking at a solid 4.0 watts per kilogram for the duration of the race so far. Main pack that we're looking at here with Britt Mason from the Community All-Stars team. Now, we've been talking about her a lot for a solid sprint, but she's had the likes of Tanya Ereth to battle with out there so far for the sprint competition. They'll take a right-hand turn, a left-hand turn through these S-turns. A little bit of a false flat here, as we can see. 2% uphill gradient. This is an opportune time to try and make an attack, as there is a left-hand turn. And just like in real life, a lot of times when you do take these turns and you change what courses that you are on, so we're not changing the overall course. We're on Watopia Flat, but you change the section of course. And when you do make those changes in section of course, there is a little bit of an opportunity for you to get a gap from the other riders, as a lot of times it's kind of difficult to hold on to that draft through those turns here. Plus, there's this little gradient after the turn. If you can get out of sight a little bit or get a little bit of a gap here, it looks like there was no attack this time around. Maybe last time on the last lap, there was a little bit of a learning curve. As look, if I attack through here and then we have that sprint coming up, I'm just gonna get swallowed up and spit out the back of the pack here. So it looks like a little bit calmer through here, maybe setting themselves up well for the sprint that is coming up here in just about 2K. Boyland here. Now we're looking for another 94 beats per minute. These riders are putting everything on the line here, it looks like, just to hang on as they head on into the old Italian village here. We're seeing a drafting power-up now here being popped, it looks like, by one of the riders now as they are heading into the Italian village, maybe just because a little bit too much suffering taking place and trying to get a little bit of a rest, a little bit of reprieve here from the insane efforts been throwing down. It is going to be Natalie Eklund here now from the Dream Team that is throwing down that drafting power-up. Looks like at 171 beats per minute, 4.0 watts per kilogram. Britt Mason, now that we're watching, though, 4.8 watts per kilogram, setting up well here. Hubach here, now out of Denmark here, the Zwift national champion for Denmark now. Now we've got a push off the front here, though, very early now, coming from, it looks like, Valkar Silence here. It looks like, but no, it's going to be McKay from the Dream Team. McKay going very early from like 400 meters out now. Show Air 2020 here. Now following it up here, it looks like it's going to be Boylard here coming from Show Air 2020 off the front now. Tiny Aerith trying to follow it up, but it's a 2-second gap back to Tiny Aerith now. And it looks like it may be Show Air that's going to make this happen, but no, McKay coming around the corner there for 8.4 watts per kilometer across the line at 181 beats per minute. And Bird from the All-Stars maybe nipping third place from Aerith. Aerith trying to make it happen at the live event there on that tax Neil, but unable to follow it up. Now a 3-second gap, though. Hubach here trying to follow it up, though, a little ways back. And it's going to be Show Air 2020, though, with a solid showing there across the line with an aero power up on the attack now, opening up the gap. Whitelaw from the All-Stars, followed up by Clevenger from 2020 Pro Cycling now. 2020 Pro Cycling off the front, aero power up on this climb into the Essies, 5% uphill gradient now. Definitely a section of the course where you can get a gap here, but they're following up very quickly here. Whitelaw from the All-Stars, Bird there, Harris there as well, 5 watts per kilogram. It's a 1-second gap back from to Hubach there for Bollard. Now Hubach grabs onto the wheel, it looks like here. Here's the replay of that effort. McKay coming around the corner at the last second, just nipping that sprint there. And this is going to be interesting to see how this ends up for the points for the overall in the sprint competition. It looks like Aerith may be able to hold on up against that Zwift Academy All-Star rider, but I'm not sure if she was able to do so. She was current leader before that sprint, Tanya Aerith, maybe getting nipped out on the line there for any points. We'll have to wait and see. Actually, a 1 point for 4th place. She may be able to still hold on to the overall. It might come down to the last sprint on the day. And the other thing about this final lap that we're going into, it's a 3-lap race, 3 sprints total, but within the last few K, we have that last sprint competition. So there's going to be all kinds of ramping up of the paces here. The riders are going to be going for the sprint competition, and immediately out of that, there may be a counterattack into these Essies in order to try and grab the W here. We're looking back at the main pack here with Bollard now, and it's going to be 2020, Show Air 2020 now with Bollard, and then it's going to be up toward the front. It's going to be a Corker here now as well. Show Air 2020 actually showing up with plenty of riders in this main pack here that are able to get away. Barnes from Canyon SRAM here off the back. Owen there from HB Supermint in there as well, trying to get back on terms with this race now. It's an 8-second gap, though, back to Canyon Trap and HB Supermid. Tanya Aerith now off the back as well, though. This last sprint has put them in the hurt locker, it looks like here. Goldman here on the attack, on the chase. They're at 2.6 watts per kilogram, though, actually backing off the wattages here, so it looks like it might be said and done as the All-Stars, 3 All-Stars in the orange, white, and blue kit on the front, pushing the pace. 2020, it looks like Show Air 2020 is getting involved here as well. 2 riders there. Looks like from them, the Dream Team with 2 riders in there as well. We have 1 other rider, looks like, here in a black kit. We'll see if we can pick up who is with these riders here still on the left-hand side of the course there. But it's Barnes, it looks like, from Canyon SRAM. They're pushing the pace at 4.8 watts per kilogram now, trying to pull this break back in. It's only 8 seconds, and this group still has to put in some serious work if they're going to be able to bring this back together now. The pros on site there at the live event are trying to bring things back together, but unable to do so here. The main pack now here on the front, looks like a corker here, 4.5 watts per kilogram, 167 beats per minute as they start their final lap. Owen there from HB Super Minute at 4.8. They're making the chase. 4 seconds is the only difference. It looks like they might be able to bring this back together. Let's head back to the venue and see how things are playing out amongst the ladies there on site who are trying to make that chase happen.
Well, you can probably hear around us, the atmosphere down here is absolutely incredible. And we keep keeping our eye on those screens, but of course, we can exactly what's happening with these riders from Canyon SRAM and the pain etched on their faces, but they're looking so strong.
Blood, sweat and tears, this is what it's all about. I mean, I must confess, having this live environment with the audience as well, the crowd, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, really helping these riders, giving that little bit more of an advantage perhaps than the others. But look how hard they are working. Tanya, of course, took the opening hotspot sprint of the night with a blistering turn of speed, 700, 800 watts to take that first one. I think she was third place in the second one, but just look at the effort writ large here. The riders here riding at or around threshold with the all-important sprint to come. One more lap. There's been a couple of attacks as well. Of course, this course is primarily flat with enough kickers to provide the catalyst for attacks, and that's what we've seen. Really aggressive racing. I've loved it.
It certainly is, and we said it's a flat course. You can predict what you can predict, but actually anything can happen on race stage. You can hear the crowd roaring in here. It's absolutely just deafening, which is incredible. It's what this league is all about.
Big question is, will it all come back together? Will we see a solo breakaway? Who knows? Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Thanks a lot, Matt. We do see Tanya Erath here on the front of, well, we're at the main pack right here, but Tanya Erath just 3 seconds back from this main pack, absolutely driving the pace for Canyon SRAM right now to close this back down. She has been the workhorse for the Canyon SRAM team to bring this back together because they had nobody really involved there in that break there. And I think the other thing is, well, actually, Ella Harris was actually in there from Canyon SRAM, but it looks like Tanya Erath was bringing that back together specifically to get back involved in that sprint competition. Not only is she looking to win the sprint competition, she's also putting the work in to shut down the break, but it's a 3 second gap still. She's absolutely suffering. Look at the pain in the face here, the red cheeks there, trying, the shaking of the head. Somebody work with me to bring this back together. But no, Owen here now on the front there. It looks like Owen now putting a little bit of a dig for the likes of Tanya to try and maybe bring this back. Not really working with the team, but just wanting to stay involved, it looks like, with this break. But it doesn't look like it's going to be happening because we do have an interesting situation. We've got a breakaway with A.E. Klavener here now on the front from 2020, from Show Air 2020 right now, seeing that a few of the riders are suffering in the chase as well as the main pack. This is a solid section to try and make this happen. It's a little bit of a calming section of the course. A lot of times on that downhill, after the sprint, after the lap section, this is kind of a situation where you could just take a TT effort off the front here, and it looks like it's going to be Erica Klavener from Show Air 2020 here, putting down a solid 183 beats per minute here, 4.3 watts per kilogram. Her teammate, they're trying to slow things down at 2.8 watts per kilogram on the front here, it looks like, with Boylard now coming out of Canada. Now Hubach along with Corker there trying to shut it down, it looks like. All-Stars, they're trying to get to the front of this pack here and shut down this attack from Show Air 2020. Show Air 2020 now really showing up on the day, though. They obviously been doing their homework. They've been jumping out on Zwift, it looks like here, and seem way more experienced than was to be expected from some of these pro teams, actually. So Show Air 2020 absolutely involved in the race here today. All-Stars now coalescing at the front end of this group before we hit that 3% uphill gradient. We've got about a 3/4 of a lap left to go here. This is going to be the Danish national champion on the front end of the pack now at a 5.5 watts per kilogram. We're looking at Ella Harris's numbers right now, though. She's at the live event there for Canyon SRAM, the New Zealand rider here, but it is another attack here on the front here from Show Air 2020 as they hit this uphill gradient now. A little bit of a 3% gradient. It's a very short effort, about 30 seconds there. Ella Harris now, 4.6 watts per kilogram, hammering away. It looks like 5.5 watts per kilogram, 179 beats per minute here. The Zwift Academy finalist winner here, hammering away, earned that contract for Canyon SRAM. Can she earn a W out here today in these final few kilometers here? There's Ella absolutely suffering here, focusing in on the wheel right in front of her. That is there of the ShoAir 2020 rider now. 6.5 kilometers to go as she tries to jump back onto the attacks here coming from the All-Stars on the front. It's going to be Bird and Whitelaw up toward the front that Harris is trying to close it down on there. Eklund there from the Dream Team, who was also a part of the Zwift Academy finalist there, sitting on the wheel. Now, if you want to be able to recognize the jerseys there right around you that you're looking at right there, you got the All-Stars there in the orange, the blue, and the white. You've got the 2020, you've got the ShoAir 2020 there in the blue. Then you've got the Dream Team that's in the all-purple kit. And then we're looking on the left-hand side there, the Canyon SRAM, obviously very recognizable there with Ella Harris. All in this front group now at this point. We've got about 7-8 riders here. Hubach here from the All-Stars now, the Danish National Zwift champion, now hammering away toward the front end of the pack now. Sitting in pretty, though, just holding onto the wheels in front of them. It looks like it's going to be Erica Clevenger now from the ShoAir team off the back by 9 seconds. Jalen there now unable to close it down out of France. We do look back on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see all of the time gaps between the riders. Tanya Areth, we saw earlier, absolutely suffering going into Ocean Boulevard, and it was only a 3-second gap, but you know it's a race of meters. It's all about holding on to that wheel right in front of you, all about that draft, and anybody who has been a part of a group ride or a race and knows those few meters where you do not have the draft and how incredibly huge that distance seems like it is to close down that gap. And that's what happened with this situation with this breakaway. Areth and Superman there, as you can see, as well as Britt Mason, who is one of the favorites for the sprinters out there, off the back now. This break does not want to be caught by those chases because all of the strong sprinters that we know of out on course right now are in that pack right now. I'd be watching out for maybe a few to be an upset on the day now that are a part of this breakaway here. We've got a solid breakaway. We'll see if we can grab some of the sprint numbers for some of these riders that we've seen out on Zwift yet, but we'll have to, as far as the favorites go, most of them off the back here at this point. I'd be watching out for Whitelaw as well as Hubach here to maybe try and get a breakaways. We do not know them to be solid sprinters, but definitely the masters of the breakaway here. We've got 3 All-Stars, as you can see, involves still 2 of the 2020 ShoAir 2020 Pro Cycling. We've also got Ella Harris there, obviously from Canyon SRAM, and 2 Dream Team riders here still sitting in the group here with McKay as well as Eklund here now. Hugh back up to the front now, 4.0 watts per kilogram. There it is, 8 riders left in the pack now, as it is going to be Canyon SRAM's Ella Harris, though, still live on site there, still able to hold on to this group here. So as far as the hopes for the race for Canyon SRAM live on site there, it looks like it's all going to be on Ella Harris to try and take this down, but she is solo against some of the most experienced and strongest riders that we know of from the community teams out on course, as well as the surprising ShoAir 2020 showing up and showing us that they've been doing their homework about how to race out on Zwift here, mixing it up with some of the most experienced racers we know of out on course here. The front of the race now, as we can see, with 4.3 kilometers to go, there's going to be a sprint as well. A sprint competition, the final sprint competition for sprint of the day here, going to be coming up after they take this left-hand turn into the Italian Village. It's going to be interesting how the riders play this out. I mean, there is a reality that there's no more sprint competition points left for the chasers, and if none of these riders are that interested in the sprint competition, they might just roll right on through and then attack through the Essies or wait for the sprint. I'm going to predict maybe an attack from the All-Stars out here today, knowing that Hubach as well as Whitelaw, they know how to break away. We saw it last week in one of the community races. They have a solid TT effort. We could see about 2.5K to go attack, I'm predicting, perhaps from the All-Stars. Then with Bird sitting in, Bird would be able to sit in and just allow those two to absolutely hammer away from the rest of the group, and then there'd just be a chase, and it'd be just nothing but cat and mouse there. And I think the All-Stars definitely have plenty of matches here to burn, a lot of tactics to burn. All the while, Ella Harris here solo, trying to sit in and make sure that she can throw down 4 Canyon SRAM at the live event there. 4.2 watts per kilogram here coming from Ella right now at this point. 3.7 watts per kilogram, 181 beats per minute at the live event here. Will the Kiwi be be able to make this happen today. Makes her way to the front here, positioning herself very well now, and it looks like trying to let that heart rate come down little by little. White now dropping her watts per kilogram down to 1.8 watts per kilogram. The question is now, will anybody go for the sprint points at this point? Ella Harris, 20 years of age, 2018 Zwift Academy winner on site there for Canyon SRAM, trying to throw down and take the W out there today. Right behind her wheel, there's going to be Show Air 2020 rider there right behind her, hanging onto her wheel. Now is the question is they head into the 300 meters to go to the sprint banner line. Is anybody going to be going and ramping up for it? Bird now jumping up into 4.2 watts per kilogram to the front for the All-Stars there on the left-hand side of the screen there in the orange, white, and blue kit. Then McKay there from the Dream Team. Here goes McKay. McKay on the attack, 10 watts per kilogram. This could be for the sprint and the W if she gets enough of a break here. The Dream Team off the front with 175 B sprint and 500 watts, 10 watts per kilogram. McKay takes down another sprint, it looks like. I believe this will be her second on the day, and that might be for the W in the sprint competition. And is it for the W on the day? Whitelaw from the Dream Team saying, no, you're not going to be the community team that's going to win this. Whitelaw hammering away out of Australia there. 7.5 watts per kilogram coming from Whitelaw. Hubach now from Denmark. The counter there coming from the All-Stars. Hubach with the attack into the SEs. This is the final time through the climbs of the SEs. 6 watts, it looks like 7 watts per kilogram on this 6% gradient. 2020 Show Air 2020 with Bolliard out of Canada. Now following it up, it's going to be Whitelaw from the All-Stars, 9.1 watts per kilogram. Ella Harris now for Canyon SRAM trying to follow it up. It's going to be McKay dropping off the back, though, at 4.4. She's just going to roll in, I think, as she's gotten her work done for the Dream Team, taking down that sprint competition. But Hubach on the front now. The All-Stars taking over. Bird following it up there. They've got 3 riders all set to burn some matches for this sprint. It's going to be all about a drag race to the finish line. This is a downhill sprint. It goes into it's solid downhill through the cavern there, and a lot of speed, and then it flattens out, and you want to kick right at the bottom of that downhill section. Ella Harris able to close this down. The solo rider from Canyon SRAM holding onto the All-Stars wheel. Then it's also going to be Bollard here out of Canada. Show Air 2020. Another Show Air, looks like another Show Air rider. Coca looks like off the back a little bit there, trying to close things down. Eklund from the Dream Teams along with them. There's a solid push here from Bird now to try and not allow those riders to come back. The All-Stars there with Vicky Whitelaw a little ways behind. She's just getting a free ride, though, from the Show Air team as well as the Dream Team here. Very smart move from Whitelaw to sit in and get that free ride and perhaps be able to be the one who takes down the sprint if the rest of the riders there waste their energy to try and bring back Ella Harris as well as Show Air 2020 and Hubach. We're seeing Bird here now with that solid lead out, though, off the front a little bit here. There's the paint on, it looks like, Ella Harris's face. Will there be anything left for a sprint? It's going to be Hubach here now going to the front there. Show Air 2020, the Bollard now trying to make it across there. It looks like able to do so. Ella just hanging on, and the ride-ons are starting to pop up over the top of Ella Harris's head. Let's see the ride-ons for all these riders. Log into your companion app and let's just see the ride-ons rain as they come into this final 300 meters now. Ella Harris now set up perfectly to try and take this down, but we've got 2 All-Stars in there. Bird and Hubach now trying to make their way to the front and set things up perfectly for the All-Stars. Ella Harris sitting in at 3.8 watts per kilogram. How is it going to play out? This is the final downhill, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner. There's that negative 2% grade. Who's going to open up the sprint first? A lot of times it's about the arrow power-up and who goes first. There's an arrow power-up now, it looks like, coming from Hubach. 5.5 watts per kilogram coming from Hubach. Harris now focused at the live event. They're trying to throw it down for Canyon SRAM. Here's an attack from Show Air, though. Bollard goes at 11 watts per kilogram. 11 watts per kilogram for Bollard. Hubach now 10.4. Ella Harris up and out of the saddle now. Can she make it happen? I'm not sure it's going to happen for Harris, as it's going to be Show Air on the front. Show Air hanging on, just barely. It looks like it was Hubach, though, maybe nipping it at the line. We're going to have to look at the replay. I think it was so incredibly close. It was Show Air and the All-Stars at the line. We'll be waiting for the official results in just a moment here. It looked like perhaps right at the last second that the All-Stars were able to come across the line there with just maybe a wheel length. We'll have to wait and see for the official results as they do come through, but it was an amazing sprint. Ella Harris there heads up with Shannon Bird as well as Louise Hubach there. Those are your top four for sure. And here's the replays that come across that KISS Super League banner there. Hubach neck and neck with the 2020 show air rider there, and it looks like it was just barely at the line there, not even a tire length by Louise Hubach. It looks like it was Louise Hubach. I believe on a preliminary results I'm looking at here now, these are not official results, but it looks like it was 4/100ths of a second there, just a tire length between Simone Billard for show air 2020 and Louise Hubach. The All-Stars showing up, showing us that they know how to race out on Zwift. Amongst the top five, we're looking, or top six riders, looking at 3 All-Stars. Canyon SRAM, though, showing up with Ella Harris. They're absolutely killing it there. And then Simone there in second, it looks like. So, yes, there it is. Louise Hubach there, followed up by Simone Billard for show air 2020 at 0.037. I mean, that is absolutely nothing at like a little over 3/100ths a second. Ella Harris for Canyon SRAM there, 0.4 seconds back there. Shannon Bird, it looks like there for the All-Stars. And then it's going to be Vicky Whitelaw, Natalie Eklund, Amanda Corker for show air 2020, Helen McKay for the Dream Team, Britt Mason for the All-Stars there in the top 10, Leanne Ganser there for HB Super Mint with a solid top 10. And that is going to be it looks like those were your top 2 for 9th and 10th place there. That is your top 2, I believe. Yeah, as you can see, 51 seconds back amongst the chase group for the sprint there for what we maybe call the main pack after they were off the back there. These are the sprint results. Helen McKay for the Dream Team. We saw her attack into the SC's lost the sprint banner line to try and take that down, and she did so for the Dream Team. We saw her go off the back and rest up. Tanya Eric does take down second place on the day with a solid 6 points. Simone Burlag, after taking, it looks like a second overall for show air 2020 with the third place there. Amanda Corker there, followed up by Vicky Whitewall. That's your top 5 there for the sprint overall points on the day. Absolutely crazy racing out there today amongst the women's KISS Super League. Number 1 out on the Watopia flat course. Crazy fast racing, super exciting. Let's see how things are going on the ground there with the Canyon SRAM team and Matt and Rebecca.
Thanks very much, Nathan. Ella, you had the crowd. This place was literally on its feet. That must have really helped. But that looks so hard. That little group you had at the end, that breakaway, you had your work cut out because you were detached at one point, managed to get back on. I'd imagine that made the sprint so much harder.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. My legs weren't really playing ball, so I was just trying to hang on as much as I could. But yeah, the crowd here tonight was absolutely amazing. Like, if I was back in Girona doing this on my own, I don't think I would have bridged. So yeah, it was really good to have the crowd here tonight. And it's such a good way to kick off the series too.
Definitely, I think it's worth mentioning that yesterday Ella was doing some threshold lactate training on a steep climb in Girona. But of course, that's the life of a professional cyclist now. But talk us through, I mean, this of course is a moment in history. This is the first ever women's professional cycling esports race. I mean, apart from your personal performance finishing third, what's it like to be a part of that?
It's pretty cool to see Zwift really taking over and building a bit of a presence in the racing scene as well as a training tool. And I think it'll be really valuable for us leading into some of the bigger races this season to have just short, sharp races every Tuesday night just to get the legs firing. So yeah, good interval training, and I think it'll be beneficial for all the teams.
Great stuff. Wonderful words there from Ella. What a professional. Beginning of her career. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Amazing race there coming from Ella Harris. We're going to be looking at the final kilometer here in just a moment here. Here's a replay of the finish, though. I believe we're looking at the final kilometer in just a moment here, but it is going to be Hubach there, followed by what I'm being told is Brallard there across the line there. What an amazing sprint. It was so incredibly close right at the line. It was only a tire length between those two. I think it was 3/100ths of a second. I mean, that is, when it comes down to it, as about as close as it gets. Absolutely killing it out there between the women. Now, this is the first of 10 races that we're going to be seeing 10 weeks of races every week for the women's. The men's league is obviously going on as well. We're going to be having race number 5 next, tomorrow for the men's league. We're going to be looking at the final kilometer here of the race and how it played out. Let's look at a play-by-play of that. So here we got Bird here now on the aero power up. It looks like the idea here was to set up Hubach actually for the sprint situation here. This is an absolute huge effort from the All-Stars to try and make sure that catch was not going to happen. That's exactly what went down here, and it looks like they set it up perfectly so that the legs of Hubach were going to be fresh as Bird drove that pace, forced Ella Harris to make that chase down, forced the Show Air 2020 rider there, Boilard, to try and close that down as well. Having 2 riders involved in that breakaway obviously favored the All-Stars here as Bird sacrificed herself for her teammate Hubach there, set her up perfectly to have fresh legs into the final kilometer here. And then we did see the attack though very early on here from Boilard there coming out of the Canada. There's the aero power up that was popped there by Hubach there, and as she was into that final 300 meters now, it starts to ramp it up. It looks like just a little bit there, but the attack there coming from the Show Air 2020 rider, but there was no aero power up. That is the thing. Oh my goodness, it was a perfectly timed drafting power up, and that is actually the exact power up that you want to have in that situation in order to hang on to the wheel of an aero power-up. That's the perfect counter to the aero power-up. When you think about this situation here, as far as the gaming side of things goes and the tactics go, that is actually the counter to the aero power-up if you are able to find it perfectly. And that was actually amazing gameplay there coming from the Show Air 2020 rider there, Boilard there. But Hubach just barely able to nip it out of the line there with that little bit of 300ths of a second there. But that's going to be it for me as far as the racing goes today. Let's go ahead and back over to Rebecca live on site there to wrap things up for us.
We said at the start of the day, anything can happen. Our Zwift community teams there, the All-Stars and the Dream teams, had a really good night.
Yeah, I mean, no real surprise of the performances from both of the selected Zwift community teams. They rode very, very strongly. They put 3 riders in that final split. I must admit, I didn't expect the racing to be so hard. I mean, we had 35 starters, give or take. It exploded towards the back end on those small minor climbs, but what a finale. What a great ride by Ella Harris. The crowd really here were on their feet. But what an opener to this series. Breathtaking stuff. Wonderful.
It certainly was. And I think, as we've said a few times throughout this evening, with this atmosphere going on in here in the venue, that this is just such a sign of what's to come from the league, isn't it? It's so fiercely competitive in the women's league. Yeah,
and I think some of the riders who haven't had much experience on it, a lot of the pro road riders have never ridden on Zwift racing. And there's a lot to learn, especially in relation to the use of correct drafting, knowing when to use your power-ups, your drafting power-ups, your aero power-ups. Lots to learn for all of us, in fact, spectators, commentators, riders alike. This is a bit of an adventure. It's new territory. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, we've got round 5 of the men's tomorrow, and then you're back next week, round 2 of the women's. Brilliant stuff. I can't wait.
I know. Well, of course, as Matt said, you can join him tomorrow as the men's league continues, and I will be back this time next Tuesday with round 2 of the KISS Super League Women's Series. So until then, goodbye from both of us.
Bye-bye.